Hi everyone, I'm Max with Customers Chasing You, and today I'm going to teach you why becoming an author is a superpower. Sound like too strong of language? Well, superpower, what are you talking about here? It's an absolute superpower, and that didn't come from me. That came from a lot of marketers, Dan Kennedy being one that I follow that's really, really good. Foundational principles, contrarian, all the things that I'm about, the channel's about, and what Customers Chasing You is all about. It's about reversing the whole paradigm and serving people at the highest level and growing your business at very high levels. And being an author is something that you should definitely think about considering. I'm going to share with you some examples and kind of the before and after picture, and at the end just let you decide. And now at the end I have a gift for you, so stick around. I'm really excited. I'm going to kind of explain it and how it all works and how it can benefit you, and it can benefit you in all stages of where you're at in your business, whether you're just getting started or you're very experienced. So I'm glad to be able to share that with you. But I want you guys to be able to be, start being viewed differently by your customer. When you have an audience and they perceive you as a salesperson, and you're a dime a dozen and there's those people everywhere, that's not really good. Okay? When people start viewing you as the expert, the authority, the celebrity, which we're going to break down each one of those, the whole thing changes. And when I say the whole thing, I mean your ability to attract customers to your business and your bank account. So what has more power, a book or a brochure? Think about that. A workbook or a yellow letter? I can speak from personal experience. I've done both a lot. I came out with brochures and catalogs and flyers and direct mail. And the day that changed my whole marketing life was the day I went to a motivated seller's appointment. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he's a World War II vet, awesome guy, and I brought him a copy of my book. And I gave it to him. I said, I wrote the book on senior housing. I'd like to give you a copy. And I signed it. And he opened up the book. His eyes got like this big. And I signed it on the inside. And for the rest of the appointment, he pretty much didn't want to have anything to do with me. He just wanted to look at the book. And we took a selfie before I crossed the threshold. And it was just amazing. It was so unexpected. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to modify here. And then more and more of these interesting things kept happening. And so I did not know that was going to happen. Then I went back and read and found out why it is. And then I'm like, well, let's duplicate that. And so now I have people all over the nation that we co-author books together, and they're the local expert for their area, and they share it. And it's a superpower. And you don't have to take my advice. You can just go call them. They're on Amazon. You can look them up and get their info and order their books, and call them and ask them what it's been like. It's mind-boggling. So if you stay tuned, good. If you're like thinking about this isn't the episode, you don't know what you're missing, because there's nothing like this, I promise you. Talk to somebody who's an author. It's unbelievable. If you're not one yet. If you are an author right now, but you're not experiencing any of these things, it might not be the right book. And we're going to talk about that. So also it's a progression. So like I started out with, handwritten post-it note direct mail, right? I think that's how everybody starts. And then I started printing out letters. I had like an assembly line, and my kids were around the table, and one person would, take the envelope and make sure it matched the first name, and then somebody else would fold it, and then somebody would lick the envelope and put the stamp on. But it only works for like 200 or 300, but that's all the budget I had. I was teaching math full time, and I was trying to get the message out. The problem was like everybody else and their mama was getting the message out too. And so I went to yellow letters, and I went to some more like brochures. And then I wrote an ebook, which is basically just like a frequently asked questions of your customers. And then just, pay a graphic designer, make it look nice. I have a few I can use, I can connect you to. And then I moved to the book, and it was a huge jump, and it was a huge difference in the results that I got. Workbook, started teaching classes, then my friends wanted to start using it, and now I license it all over the nation. So it's really, really cool to see people get results. So what are the superpowers? Authority, number 1. 2, celebrity, and then 3, authority, expert, and celebrity. They don't have to be in that order, but that's how we'll say them, okay? And that came from Dan Kennedy. He's got a great book called Book the Business. Very, very few people I've really talked to have read it, and it's like the most powerful book on books I've ever read. It pretty much like, let's sit back a little bit. It pretty much like dispels the myths about books. Like there are so many myths out there, and it's unbelievable. It's a great book. So check it out if you're interested at all. If you're on this channel and you're like, man, why is he always talking about these books? Well, there's two things. Number one, successful readers, successful people read a lot. And I'm dyslexic, so trust me, if you're not into reading, I feel you. But part of it's habit. I had disability, I got with a coach, and now I read, and I write books now. It's powerful. So let's go number one, authority. So when you're the authority, which has the word author in it, you have the power to prescribe, not just sell. That's a huge difference. You can walk into a room and say, this is what needs to happen, and they see that you're an author on that subject, you have a certain amount of expertise, and they're like, okay. So here's an example. Let's say you have a big time stomach pain and you go to the local ER clinic. They seem to be popping up everywhere where I live. I don't know about where you live. Comment down below if there's ER clinics. You go to get some you got some stomach pain. You go to the ER, and the ER doctor, who's a generalist, says, hey, we got major problems here. There's internal bleeding, and I got to take you down to surgery right this minute. So you may be like, okay, whatever you say, or you might be like, take me to the ER at the big hospital. I want a second opinion. You know what I mean? Because the ER doc, the doc in the box at that local place, they don't have that power to prescribe at that level. But let's say that you're at the Mayo Clinic and you got some stomach pain, and you got the stomach pain expert, and he's in every magazine and every book, and he says, we got to go into surgery right now. What are you going to do? He got the power to prescribe. That's the difference. You want to be able to prescribe, not sell. It's much faster. Okay? Expert. So that's number two. So what is an expert? There's a lot of fake experts running around, and I don't know. I hope that you can spot them real quick and tell it's a joke. They got to have results. You can't just go to a seminar and become an expert. You actually have to know what you're talking about. Deep knowledge. If you have deep knowledge, that's an expert. A person who wrote the book on, that's obviously some kind of deep knowledge, right? And what's cool about that is that when you're an expert and you have that deep knowledge and you have so much value to share, is that your clients, your customers, your influencers, they distribute your book, okay? You give them a yellow letter, postcard, brochure, business card. Dude, people lose those all the time. They don't even know what to do with them. They're just sitting in piles. Let's see, I think I got a book here. Let me see if I got one. Yeah, so here's Greg Bonds. I'm going out to see him in Orlando. He's one of our co-authors in our lead generation system. He gave out a lot of business cards in his career. This is the first book that he co-authored, and it's awesome. I think it's a great cover. Now he gives people the book. Do you think they're going to throw away his book? It's got his bio on here. No, they get to know him. They think it's really cool. So it's just a totally different situation. Plus, a business card you can read in 30 seconds. Maybe it sends you to a website that's boring and generic and not customer-centric. But when people read his book and they read his stories and they read the reference guide that we created together, they're investing 7 hours with him. It's totally different. So that's that deep knowledge, okay? And then the next one is celebrity. People act irrationally to celebrities. I've done it. I like the Wallflowers. I don't know if you heard of that band. And I got to go, I've seen them 4 times. And I was on the front row for one of them. We were around the back, got to hang out with Jacob Dylan. It was so cool. Don Henley, if you're watching this, I'm a huge Don Henley fan. So, and you live in my city, so I don't know why I haven't figured out, I don't know why we're not hanging out. But yeah, if I saw Don Henley, I would probably try my best to act normal, but I would probably be acting irrationally, and I have some other people like that too. Jay Scott, man, he's so cool. That was the first book I read on flipping houses, and I got to sit next to him at dinner. We were both speaking at the same event, and which was really kind of crazy, right? It's not crazy now, okay? But it was crazy when I was a math teacher and I was taking my wife to the doctor, or we're about to have a baby, and I'm reading his book on flipping houses, which is a great book. And I'm reading it, and then to think I would ever get to meet him and eat dinner with him and talk, and I sent him my book and all that kind of deal. You just can't believe it, right? But I was trying to act normal, but he's like really super cool. We did some selfies, super nice guy, super smart, huge giver. I love that. And then when I met Robert Kiyosaki, I remember standing in line to get his book like a long time ago, like 2004. I had just gotten married, and or 2005, 6, and stood in line at Barnes & Noble for like 2 hours, got his book. It was like really cool. And I met him not that long ago. I got an award for Innovator of the Year, which I'm very proud of. I love that word, innovator, because I like doing something new and different, and I'm creative. That's what I do. And so I got to meet him, and it was so cool because when I got my award, we took posed for pictures, and he was there at the conference. And then he said, well, what'd you get the award for, And I said, it was for my book system. And he's like, oh, cool. And he's like asking me about it. And then I sent him a copy. And I'm thinking to myself, I stood in line for like 15 years to get a copy of his book. And now I'm giving him a copy of mine. So like being an author, it can change everything, and it doesn't have to be War and Peace, which is a big book if you're not a reader. Okay, it doesn't have to be. I read 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson. Awesome book. It doesn't have to be like that, but it takes it to the next level. So celebrity's real. Like when I go places and when other authors go places, they don't do a sales presentation. Like for me, I do a book signing. We're taking photos. I do the same thing when I go meet with my motivated sellers. I have a picture that if it's not on my website or on Facebook, it'll be there soon. But I sent somebody my book and workbook, and we worked together, and I went to their house, and you're walking around, you're looking at the condition of the home before you can buy it, and right there on the nightstand is my book and workbook. You know what I mean? Like that's a great feeling, right? So when I walk in, they want to take pictures. It's cool. I'm just a regular guy, and it happens really fast. So if you're interested in that, like I have to be known in order to get my message out to serve you, but I'd be cool if I just worked here all day. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to get everybody think I'm so cool. So the celebrity thing has never really appealed to me, but it's real and it gets you results. I mean, LeBron James can go speak at ExxonMobil and get paid $1 million. And it's not because he's an authority on oil and gas. And it's not because he has deep knowledge of the oil and gas industry. It's because he's a celebrity. And, I think teamwork and, achieving results, he probably, is an authority on those, even if he doesn't have a book. But what do all those athletes do when they get done with their career? They write a book. Everybody's writing books. It's awesome. You need to get on it. So one tip that I can give people is that when they get a book, or if you already have a book, a lot of it is your positioning with the book too. And that's what we teach in our weekly mastermind. And what's really cool about it is I told you the story of how I went and met that World War II vet. And I gave him my book. And he just wanted to read the book. He didn't want to talk to me as much. So what I did for future appointments is that when people call and they want me to go over to their house or our licensees, this is what I teach them to do. I have them send their book first. So they take I say, okay, cool. You want me to come over? Awesome. Here's what I'm going to do. I wrote the book on senior housing. I want to give you a copy of it. It's a reference document for what you're trying to do here. Chapter 3 is all the ways to sell your house, pros and cons of each. So read over that. I'll come over on Tuesday and read that chapter. And if you still want to sell your house, I'll come over. And if not, just give me a call. No big deal. And so I sign the book, personalize it to them, and then courier it over. And you get huge, huge results. Because marketing is about trust. This channel is about getting customers to chase you, right? It's about marketing. It's about being creative and how you do that. And but it all just boils down to trust. And people trust authors because they're seen as the authority. They have deep knowledge, and everybody wants to be around them. So huge leverage. So how do we take advantage of this? How do we take advantage of this trifecta? That's what Dan Kennedy calls it, the trifecta of marketing and being an author. It's unbelievable. So here's what I did. I created a tool to organize your thoughts into a book or a booklet, whatever you prefer, or just a marketing piece. So I'm going to provide a link down below. It's called Free Tools. Click on it, and then just tell us where you want us to send it to you. It's the same template that I ask before. I've written 3 books. I have people who use them all over the country and soon in other countries, which is really cool and exciting. But it's the same questions I ask. I'm starting another book here in a few months. And so it's the same questions I ask. It took me a while to figure out what questions to ask. I'm going to save you some time. So just download the checklist, answer the questions, and if you like the video, share it with somebody else, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. And until next time, be well, be blessed, and talk to you soon. Bye.